Again, what are the burning questions? How's my ointment doing on burning questions?
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. Right,
Go.
Dr. Tyson, how do you personally position yourself in relation to...
Who's this from?
Sorry, this is from Zhao, one of our editors. And
one of our editors, excellent.
Yeah. How do you personally position yourself in relation to religion? Would you describe yourself as an atheist or agnostic or something else? And depending on that position, how do you approach the question of death? Even if one is not religious, do you consider it possible that something metaphysical might exist beyond the physical universe? Or does science suggest that death is simply the cessation of existence? What happens to the complex thoughts, memories, and emotions a person developed throughout their life? I ask this from the perspective of someone who was strongly atheistic and scientifically minded, now facing an incurable illness. My father is suffering and trying to convince myself that perhaps there is something beyond. In light of this situation, how would you approach the question yourself, or what would be the best intellectually honest way to even consider, from a scientific standpoint, the possibility that something metaphysical might exist? That's a long question, but I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, Zhao, thanks for bringing us down.
I know. Scott. Damn, Zhao. Okay. A couple of things.
Yeah.
I recently learned that Stephen Colbert, who is himself religious, he's a devout Catholic.
Yes. Devout Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he calls people who say that they're agnostic as having no balls. It's an atheist without balls. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'd say it's an atheist without gonads, because they're afraid to commit one way or another.
I disagree with that. I think a lot of agnostic people did believe in God and then realize there's not a lot there to hold on to, but they still want to hold on to it.
He just wants you to commit, right?
Yeah, he wants you to go one way or the other. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm a different kind of agnostic,
right,
based on what I've seen and what I've read. I call myself an agnostic only because the definitions of words are how people use them. Unlike what we normally think of as a dictionary defining a word, a dictionary describes a word as it has come into use. Okay? So, if you look at leading atheists of the day, Richard Dawkins, who's been on the show several times, you look at Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, now deceased. These are leading atheists who each had atheistic books that they've written.
Right.
And you look at their behavior, there's a lot of their behavior that does not overlap with my behavior. For example, I will defend the use of AD and BC in reckoning years.
Mm-hmm.
For BC is before Christ, AD is Anno Domini, Latin in the year of our Lord. Yeah. I will defend the use of that because the Catholic Church put the Jesuit priest on the case to figure out how to fix the calendar that was broken. And out of that came the Gregorian calendar, which all the civilized world uses. Mm-hmm. So I give props to where it's due. Whereas ardent atheists strip that from the calendar reckoning and use CE, Common Era, and BCE, before the Common Era. Who are they fooling? It's the same time frame. Okay? So this is a cleansing of the communication channels just to put distance between them and anything religious. That's not me. Okay? My single favorite Broadway musical is Jesus Christ Superstar. My single favorite choral work is Bach's Mass in B minor, with Handel's Messiah a distant second, but it's still second. Okay?
How dare you?
Handel's Messiah was actually written in English. It was was it the King James Bible? But it was, anyhow, I am not ardent against people who have strong or even mild religious faith. Not up in their face debating them this. Whereas all these other folks I just listed have debated devout religious people in their lives. That's not me. Therefore, I don't want to say I'm an atheist if by saying so you think I'm going to be like that. I need some other word that's softer than that, because I personally am softer than that. And my best evidence for this was I had a friend of mine go up on the space shuttle, and on my Facebook page, I said, Godspeed, my friend's name, and STS. I forgot which, STS is how they numbered the space shuttle missions. And I said, Godspeed, space shuttle.
Mm.
People in the comment thread said, Godspeed, I thought you were an atheist. Complaining that I used that word.
How dare you use that?
Exactly. These were atheists trying to claim me.
You have blasphemed your no one. Damn it, you've blasphemed nothing. This is so frustrating.
You heretic of no idea.
Yes.
Right. So that was very telling to me, that there's certain behavioral characteristics that are expected. And to the extent that I do not fulfill that, I will not count myself among the ranks of atheists, because it's the behavior of the leading atheists that are defining people's understanding of the word today.
Yeah.
That's why I'm agnostic. Okay. And the only reason why. Otherwise, there'd be no question here. Okay. All right. Now, how do I deal with death? As I get older, I'm thinking more and more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the last chapter of my book, Starry Messenger, Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read you those last two paragraphs.
Okay.
And then that'll give you all the wisdom and insight you need to take to your father, speaking directly to Zhao. So I've thought long and hard about death, and I'd lean towards the scientific sense of death, where your state of non-existence in death is not fundamentally different from your state of non-existence before you were born. Think about that. Before you were born, you weren't saying, where am I? How come I'm not anywhere? You just had no existence. And my confidence in a non-existence in death comes from people who've had many strokes. And with many strokes, different parts of your intellectual functioning go away bit by bit. Your ability to recognize other people, to know where you are, to remember to eat, to speak, you have short-term memory, long-term memory. And these are neurosynaptic failures of the brain. So in death, where there is no neurosynaptic activity at all, to require of death that somehow your brain is restored into some newly functioning whole, for me as a scientist, is unrealistic. But that doesn't alter other thoughts that I have. For example, we are made, not figuratively, but literally, of stardust. We are of the stars. We are the same ingredients the stars are made of. Our ingredients came from the stars. So it's not just that we are alive in the universe. The universe is alive within us. And that's a gift of 20th century astrophysics to civilization that borders on the spiritual. Okay, so now, in death, you've got pretty much two choices in modern society. You can be buried, that's my choice, so that the energy content of my body, which is still there when you die, you have no neurosynaptic thoughts, but your molecules were built up from your lifetime of eating and exercising and the building of your organs and your muscles and other tissue. In death, those molecules still contain energy. If I'm buried and I decompose, all that energy gets absorbed by microbes, by flora and fauna dining upon my body, the way I have dined upon flora and fauna my whole life. In that way, giving back to the earth what I had taken or literally borrowed over my life. If you're cremated, the energy content of those molecules, it doesn't go away. It gets transferred to heat. This is what heats the air column over the crematorium. That then radiates infrared energy that was once the energy content of the molecules of your body, radiates it out into space, moving at the speed of light. So, if after someone has been cremated, you can keep a timeline. Where has their radiant energy reached by now? If they died 4 years ago, if they were cremated 4 years ago, they would have reached the nearest star system, Alpha Centauri. 20 years ago, you can look at a map and see where that has touched. So that in a way, you're still a part of the universe. You're still in the universe, just in a different form. In order to presume you are fully alive and functioning, that requires religion, which is strongly based on belief systems rather than on anything science would tell you about it. I'd like to end, Zhao, with a reading from the last several paragraphs of a book I published a couple of years ago, Starry Messenger, Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization. I'll be reading from the last chapter titled Life and Death. Do you really know how precious life is? The total number of people who have ever been born is about 100 billion. Yet the genetic code that generates viable versions of us is capable of at least 10 to the 30th variations. That astronomically huge number is a 1 followed by 30 zeros, producing 1,000,000 trillion possible souls. Each of us, for all practical purposes, is unique in the universe, now and forever. Being alive is the time to celebrate being alive, every waking moment. Along the way, why not strive to make a world a better place today than yesterday, simply for the privilege of having lived in it? On my deathbed, I'd be sad to miss the clever inventions and discoveries that arise from our collective human ingenuity, presuming the systems that foster such advances remain intact. That's what fueled the exponential growth of science and technology in my lifetime. I further wonder whether civilization's arc of social progress will continue with all its fits and starts, and thus reward any time traveler from the oppressed spectrum of humanity who choose to visit the future rather than the past. On the whole, I don't fear death. Instead, I fear a life where I could have accomplished more. An epitaph worthy of a tombstone comes from the 19th century educator, Horace Mann. I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Our primal urge to keep looking up is surely greater than our primal urge to keep killing one another. If so, then human curiosity and wonder, the twin chariots of cosmic discovery, will ensure that starry messages continue to arrive. These insights compel us for our short time on Earth to become better shepherds of our own civilization. Yes, life is better than death, but life is also better than having never been born. Each of us is alive against stupendous odds. We won the lottery only once. We get to invoke our faculties of reason to figure out how the world works. But we also get to smell the flowers. We get to bask in divine sunsets and sunrises and gaze deeply into the night skies they cradle. We get to live and ultimately die in this glorious universe. Zhao, your father needs you now. He, whatever are his ailments, he is not alone in people whose lives have been hit by disease, ailments, accidents, war, pestilence. Regardless, we are the lucky ones because we got to be born at all. So I spent a lot of time wondering if I had never been born. You have to be born in order to then die. So the birth is a privilege, and so is the death, because that's the package of life that we're handed. And everybody else in that 10 to the 30th variations of the human genome will never know either end of that celebration of this universe. And that is a cosmic perspective. Gary, Chuck, I love these, hearing from all the folks.
And I'm sure they love hearing from you.
Who are in the Star Talk family.
Yeah.
A pretty cool group.
Our fan base gets to see that our people got curiosity too, right?
Yeah.
They're not alone.
And that there's a lot of people behind the scenes making Star Talk happen.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. All right, I think that's a wrap. Gary.
Yes. Call it a day.
Thanks for being there.
No, pleasure, Neil. Always a pleasure.
We're all that. And Chuck, we love you, especially in that comedy special.
Oh, you mean just smart enough that you can actually watch on the Star Talk main channel? That's
oh, that
one? That comedy special? I forgot all about that, but now that you mention it, yeah.
This has been another installment of Star Talk Special Edition.